LSU wants him. Miami wants him. Clemson wants him. And yet the experts are saying DJ Lagway is going to end up at Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and on the Rogue Media Network. I appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day because we've got a fully loaded episode. We are talking DJ Lagway. The experts, the powers that be in college football are saying actually Baylor is the best spot for the former number one quarterback recruit in the nation. Plus, portal's hitting Kansas State pretty hard right now. Normally, we wouldn't care, except for the fact that they've got some star defenders on the block, and their coach now coaches at Baylor. And here's this one thing Scott Drew just cannot help doing. Without fail, he does it every year. All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. But we start where we start. It is in the thumbnail. It is why you are here, other than the fact that it's your first listen today and every day. We are talking quarterback in the transfer portal. Nothing hotter, no hotter topic in college football than that. And the name on everyone's lips right now around Baylor is DJ Lagway. You remember DJ. 5-star recruit, number one quarterback in the nation just 2 years ago. And just last year was a freshman All-American playing in the SEC and turning heads at Florida. Now he's leaving Gainesville. It's a mess there. And there are some big-time programs that are after this kid's commitment, not the least of which being Lane Kiffin at LSU, retweeting that tweet, right? I mean, Lane's got the Twitter fingers, doesn't have to worry about a college football playoff right now. Retweeting that DJ Lagway is out there in the portal. Certainly that would be one that would wet Lane's whistle quite a bit. And then there's Baylor. They're not Miami. They're not Clemson. They're not LSU when it comes to that kind of transfer portal pull. You know, they don't have the illustrious coach that those other schools do. They're not competing for a college football playoff spot like those other schools are annually. And yet here they are, kind of at the front of this thing. In fact, ESPN put out the most likely teams that would nab DJ Lagway in the transfer portal, and they had Baylor number one. And then I see my good pal, Matt Mosley, tweeting out about, that DJ Lagway is working with this prestigious quarterback coach, and there is definite interest from their camp to come to Baylor. How? Well, it's simple. He's the legacy. Right. And as I said on the show the other day, not your normal legacy, right? Like there are some where, oh yeah, my dad played at Baylor, whatever, Danny Stutzman, those kinds. And they're like, actually we're good. I'll play at Oklahoma. I'll play at UT. I'll play wherever it is. But DJ Lagway is not like that. Like he grew up legitimately rooting for Baylor, going to Baylor camps, going to Baylor games, taking pictures with Baylor players. And they were one of the three hats on his table as the number one quarterback recruit in the country when Baylor was coming off a 3-9 season. So certainly there is genuine interest and genuine love there. But what's actually more interesting to me is looking at it from the Baylor side of things. Quarterback is not the number one problem that they have going into this offseason. In fact, they've got a succession plan at quarterback. At least it seemed that way. You brought in a former four-star recruit in Walker White through the transfer portal last year out of Auburn. Didn't play for Baylor, but that would feel like the next guy in line. He was the other guy they struck out on after Lagway in that class of 24. You've got him. You've got Nate Bennett, who was the guy taking the backup snaps. You really liked Edward Griffin coming out of Coppell High School. Dave Aranda raved about Edward Griffin, maybe more than any other quarterback on the roster last year. So why then are you going after DJ Lagway? Especially after you said, Dave Aranda, that we need to build the lines here. offensive line, defensive line. And you look at who's going out in the portal, and it's linemen that are leaving. So why quarterback? Well, that answer is simple. It's the only position that can save a coach's job in the short term. In fact, DJ Lagway's already done it. He saved Billy Napier's job just by being on the roster. Like that's why Napier was the coach for the Florida Gators to start the 24 season. And then it was a mess, and he gets fired. And I think Lagway's season really kind of took a dive because of that. Started to sink because of that turmoil and that drama and that pressure that's even more than just the regular day-to-day pressure of being the quarterback of the Florida Gators in the SEC. But you look at it from Baylor's standpoint, Dave Aranda knows he's on thin ice and that the ice should have cracked but for a scandal from his boss, Mack Rhoades. If Mack Rhoades was still the AD here, Dave Aranda would not be the head coach. And so he knows that this athletic department and Doug McNamee are going to monitor this situation for the next 9 months, and that if it's a slow start to next year, he's probably not going to last the season. And there's only one position in the transfer portal that can single-handedly turn around your fortunes and turn around your reputation as a team, and that is quarterback. It's not always the right decision, right? I think we're all in agreement that you've got to build a stronger offensive and defensive line. You've got to get better in the secondary, even though that was a bit of a pleasant surprise last year. You've got to be able to run the football, and that goes with the offensive line. You need more receivers. They're all graduating except for Lewis Brown the fourth. You've got plenty of other positions to improve other than quarterback. But having DJ Lagway in there gives an instant kind of reputation boost, if nothing else. And it's a position that can single-handedly make your team better. We saw that with Sawyer Robertson. Like if Sawyer Robertson never comes off the bench in 2024, like if they continue to roll with DeQuan Finn and he doesn't get hurt, we're probably talking about Dave Aranda getting fired after last year. If you look at the last 4 seasons, the last 3 seasons, the only good stretch they've had of football was when Sawyer Robertson got really hot and they won 6 games in a row at the end of 2024. So that's why Baylor should be in on DJ Lagway. There's other position groups they need to improve. Absolutely, yes. And DJ probably shouldn't be their number one priority. But if you're looking at it from the lens of Dave Aranda is week to week, his coaching staff is week to week, which means, the players on this roster will feel like week to week, whether they check out or not if the coach is fired middle of next season. The way to lift spirits and the most valuable weapon you can have is a dynamite quarterback out of the transfer portal. Apparently the Lagway family loves Jake Spavital. That's also coming from Matt Mosley. Spav's here. This offense can run really well. I know it didn't look that great at the end of the season, but this can be a high-powered offense with a quarterback coach who has worked with some damn good quarterbacks, including some with the same skill set as DJ Lagway. It's a place where you can start over. You can follow in your dad's footsteps. You're not going to, well, I shouldn't say. I was going to say, you're not going to be the only reason the coach is there, but maybe he will be again. And maybe that's something for DJ Lagway to think through. But all this to say, the smoke around this is real. And the people I've talked to around the Baylor football program have said the same thing. It's real. That it's probably not the biggest thing that they need to solve in this offseason, but that there is real interest there from both sides. You've missed out on a recruiting class for all intents and purposes. I know you're still bringing in 4 stars, and that's really good. But you missed out on your top 3 recruits that you had right before National Signing Day. So you've got money to throw around, and you need a boost. You need something that is going to get this fan base into it. and excited for 2026 and keep them on the season ticket list, DJ Lagway can totally be that. Even after the rough year that he had. The kid needs a fresh start. This is a fresh start. Dave Aranda needs something to kind of latch onto to get the fans excited. That's also DJ Lagway. So should they be going all in and trying to get the Florida transfer in here? Let me know in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts. Then be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel because that helps me out a lot and helps me keep my job. Speaking of jobs, there's a new one for Joe Klanderman. He's now the DC at Baylor. A lot of good defensive players at Kansas State. A lot of them hitting the portal. Are we going to see a mass exodus from Manhattan and to Waco? That's coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by our friends over at Rocket Money. You guys, you ever had that feeling where it just feels like your money disappears each month? It happens fast. A few subscriptions here, impulse buy there. Suddenly the numbers in your bank account, they don't match the numbers in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity. It helps you track every dollar, and it helps you stay in control of your finances because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. That's why Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can stress less. They find subscriptions you forgot you were paying for and helps you clean them up quickly. I'm a success story from this. Okay, I have a roof over my head, I think, because Rocket Money found all these subscriptions I was paying for, but not really using anymore. Having the app finds good times to save each month, and it keeps you consistent with your financial goals. Take control of your finances and cancel those unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon, one word, rocketmoney.com/locked on. Do it, and do it today. Back here on Locked On Baylor, we are talking about the transfer portal, which opens in 2 weeks here, January 2nd. So there we go. It's slowly but surely bearing down upon us. No pun intended. Maybe the biggest benefit of getting Joe Klanderman in here as Baylor's defensive coordinator short term is the guys he can bring with him. We've already started to see the rumors. You know, these guys from Kansas State posting cryptic tweets about themselves and Joe Klanderman. They can stay in the Big 12, stay at that high level of college football, and still play for their coach if they come down to Baylor. Well, those names are starting to heat up once again. It's not going anywhere. We're going to hear a lot about it over the next 2 weeks until that transfer portal opens. Donovan McIntosh, safety, Ryan Davis, the cornerback. They are already in the portal. It is starting to hit Kansas State pretty hard here this week. And we know Joe Klanderman is already going to work.
Priority A is handling the guys on the current roster and just getting to know those guys and see them and get a chance to meet them, put a name with a face, maybe put them at ease about the transition and what's happening here. Talk about how we're going to move this thing forward. And then priority B is acquiring the guys that, are aspiring to be Bears.
And we don't know, not a lot of guys in the secondary yet that have hit the transfer portal for Baylor. They do have a couple of guys graduating. But when you look at the names here that entered the portal yesterday, Donovan McIntosh and Ryan Davis, both those guys, both of them are players that Kansas State fans are like, don't love that. Really don't love that. Donovan McIntosh, the first one, I mean, had a big season for them, was one that they were really expecting to contribute in 2026. He was their number 2 rated defensive back, according to PFF. He also had a pick, 4 passes defended, like already sounds like one of the top defensive backs for Baylor. And that is a position group that Joe Klanderman coached quite a bit in his time at Kansas State. But the other one, no disrespect, the other guy in the portal is really catching my eye, and that is Ryan Davis. This is a guy that Kansas State fans are really upset. Like, not like he's going to be Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year kind of thing, but like, man, that was a guy that we really, really wanted to keep. and he's set up for kind of a breakout year next year. Edge rusher. So already check exactly what Baylor needs. I mean, they've been trying for an edge rusher, a disruptive edge guy for years. And they really haven't had one. As much as the talk that we've had, about Garmin Randolph and Gabe Hall, and man, those guys are freaks, and TJ Franklin, it didn't amount to much. Even the guys they got in the portal last year, Marion Winston, kind of an underwhelming season in 2025. And here they say, this is from CJ Online. That's the Topeka Capital Journal covering Kansas State. And I just found this so funny. Davis was unable to live up to his preseason hype in 2025 due to injuries that hampered him before the Wildcats Week 0 game against Iowa State. He appeared in 9 games, recorded 10 pressures and 4 sacks. Man, what an underwhelming season for Ryan Davis. By the way, his 10 quarterback pressures would lead the team for Baylor, and his 4 sacks would be tied for the team lead. In an underwhelming season where he only played 9 games, he would be the leading sack artist for the Baylor Bears in 2025. That's what I mean. Kansas State's depth guys are an improvement for Baylor when it comes to getting after the quarterback. This sounds like a guy you've got to have in the door if you're Joe Klanderman and the Baylor Bears. He's got 2 years of eligibility left, and everyone knows his best football is still in front of him. They're expecting it this year, and it wasn't because he was, just not playing well. It's because he was hurt that he didn't live up to that preseason hype. And I've seen the tape of this guy. He's got some explosiveness. He's not the biggest dude in the world, but he is absolutely explosive. He's already played a ton of snaps, right? He played most of his freshman year as well in 2024, played 9 games this year, and he's got 2 years of eligibility left. That is like a golden ticket for Baylor. There are going to be other names that they bring in the transfer portal that will feel like giant moves. Even someone like a DJ Lagway, obviously that's going to steal the headlines. But when you talk about a guy, when you're looking at what Baylor needs and what Baylor wants and needing to be disruptive and getting after the quarterback, here it is. Here he is. Ryan Davis is a piece of that puzzle. He's not all of it, but he's a piece of that puzzle. When we look at the strategy that Dave Aranda has taken on in the transfer portal over the last couple of years, it's either guys who have played a lot of snaps at a lower level, which isn't the worst thing. Keaton Thomas was one of those, and he's their best defensive player. He was playing at a JUCO 2 years ago before joining the Bears. And then you see guys who come from big programs who haven't played at all. Calvin Simpson Hunt being an example of that. A guy who was coming off the plane as a national champion at Ohio State, but had only played 30 some odd defensive snaps and didn't play much at Baylor. I'm reminded of something Joey McGuire said on the Rogue Media Network this week. He talked about how he wants to build his teams at Texas Tech, and specifically looking at the portal. And the main thing he said was, we want guys who weren't backups somewhere else. We want starters. Because if they're backups somewhere else, they're going to be backups here. Those are just depth guys. We want guys who are starters. Edge rusher has started, has a lot of snaps under his belt in the Big 12, and was effective in the Big 12, and has 2 years of eligibility left. I don't know what more you need to hear. Familiarity with your coach. What else do you need for a guy like Ryan Davis? That checks all the boxes. And by the way, Donovan McIntosh is a guy who's played a lot of snaps too. He checks off a lot of those boxes. Effective in the Big 12, has played, has been a starter, has eligibility left, more than 1 year. He's another one who's got a couple years. So, those guys check all the boxes. It's not a sexy DJ Lagway type name. but those guys fit your needs and check the boxes. Those two right there, like, let's play it out, and they commit to Baylor. Those two are better than all but one or two guys who have signed for you in the transfer portal in terms of checking off the boxes over the last couple of years. And they're not risks. Michael Trigg was a risk that paid off, right? He'd already played at two different schools. Like, these guys, there aren't risks here. They're not flight risks. They don't have a lot of red flags, if at all. The only one I could think is Ryan Davis did have an injury last year. Guys come back from injuries, though. So those are the names that I'm looking at with that Kansas State Joe Klanderman connection. And I think would be terrific additions to the portal for the Baylor Bears. On the next episode, I want to look at some of the guys who are leaving Baylor and what that kind of says about this portal window for Dave Aranda and Joe Klanderman and the rest of the gang with the Baylor Bears. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. Of course, we come at you every weekday, dropping in the morning on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. It is the #1 Baylor football show on YouTube, and the reason is because of y'all. So thank you. We're not done just yet, though. We've got one more segment to talk about Baylor basketball, which still does exist. The games are few and far between, but it is time we talk about them because Scott Drew has done it again, and he just can't help himself. It happens every single year. We'll tell you what that is coming up next on Locked On Baylor. But first, a word from our friends over at Wayfair. You know them, Wayfair, the kind of every style, every home type. They're back at it for the holiday season because let's be honest, it sneaks up on you. It sneaks up on all of us. If you're still putting together the gifts, last minute decor maybe, or getting your home ready for your guests, Wayfair's got you covered. Whether you need a quick room refresh, new bedding, or those final seasonal touches to really get you in the festive spirit, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need fast. It is your one-stop shop for everything home. Trust me, guys, we got a new TV finally, and we got it mounted on the wall. First time in my life I've had a TV mounted on the wall. So now we have all this space. Couple of clicks at Wayfair, we've got a couple of things to fill up that space so it's not just wall and TV. So Wayfair's already got me covered. Their selection, huge. Decor, kitchen gear, bedding, kids' room updates, if that's your style. I was able to find everything I needed in one place, and I know that you can too. No massive delivery fees, which I love. No stress. It's the best way to get your home holiday ready without running around to all these different places. So get last-minute hosting essentials, gifts for all your loved ones, and the decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Scott Drew just can't help himself, man. Every year he does this. Every single year he does this. And you could argue that it hurts the program, but it's really tough to blame him for that. And that is this. Once again, even when Scott Drew has to rebuild the entire roster from one year to the next, he still finds guys that are good enough to be taken in the first round of the NBA draft. He still has to worry about one and dones, even when he's got to replace the entire roster. No one has that problem quite like Scott Drew in recent years. I mean, we know the stats. It was the only team to have 5 straight years of guys taken in the top. I think it's top 21 or 22 now. It's always moving the goalpost, but hey, that's where it is. And Baylor not only has one guy that's projected to go in the first round of the NBA draft, they've got 2 guys who are projected to go in the first round come June. Again, I can't stress this enough. Had to replace the whole roster, still found 2 first round NBA draft projections. And that is coming from Bleacher Report, by the way. They have got at number 15, Cameron Carr, who, I mean, you would have guessed that. And number 18, Tounde Yessoufou, the 5-star freshman. But if you're going off it right now, in case you're keeping score at home, that would be Tounde Yessoufou to the Miami Heat and Cameron Carr to the Golden State Warriors. don't take that as canon. I mean, it's gonna take a while till we figure out who's getting those draft picks. Cam Carr, by the way, getting compared to Devin Vassell and Tounde Yessoufou to Cam Whitmore. We hear a lot about Anthony Edwards, but Cam Whitmore is the one he's getting right now. So I know a lot of you feel the same way as me on this. Like, what am I going to do? Am I going to sit here and criticize the future Hall of Famer, Scott Drew, for just getting too much talent? Like, just getting too many talented guys? I can't sit here and do that. Nor do I really want to, by the way. It's more just what college basketball is at this point. And that is, every year you got to flip the roster, whether it's the portal or these guys that are being taken in the first round. There's just not a lot of development going on in the big college basketball programs. There is development going on in college basketball, for sure. But you're just not getting guys staying for 2 or 3 years. And I know you guys know this, right? And it kind of makes me think, should we go back to letting high schoolers go in the draft? Like, if they can already play in the G League, what's the point? Like, have them be eligible for the draft. And I think you should do what baseball does. You can go out of high school if you want to go to the NBA draft, which a lot of the top prospects, if not all of them, will. Or you've got to come to college for 3 years. I think that would, not that Tounde Yessoufou is like ruining college basketball. Obviously, that's not the case. But I think that kind of model does a lot for college basketball, and specifically college basketball fans. Because I'm not going to lie to you guys, even more than football, I'm kind of sick of the transfer portal in basketball. It has actively kind of hampered my experience as a college basketball fan. And I know people will be in the comments saying, oh, Cam's bitching, but like, if we didn't have the transfer portal, we wouldn't even have Cam Carr. Like, right, correct. But you'd also have 3 years of Rob Wright. You'd have a couple of years of, name your pick, anybody from the roster last year, right? You would have had Jason Asamoah actually developing here at Baylor and not at BC. Oof. You'd have familiarity. You'd have a system that you can play because you have guys coming back year after year. And it just, I think as a fan, the transfer portal hurts the college basketball experience more than it helps it from a fan standpoint. And especially in a league like the Big 12, where the atmospheres are elite and there are good rivalries and there is great talent out there every night. Now imagine that year after year. Like imagine having guys that you hate on the other side that give great battles, and then you get it twice in 1 year and then twice the next year. That's how college basketball used to be. Gerald Henderson is out here elbowing Tyler Hansbrough and breaking his nose, and then they had to play again the next year. But that's not college basketball anymore. And obviously, it's not really college football either. I think there are more guys staying in football, but it's just a bummer. I don't know how this went from giving all these first-round picks to hating the transfer portal in college basketball. But my kingdom to have like 5 guys that go from Baylor from 1 year to the next. They don't even all have to be starters, but can I get some carryover? That's what made Baylor a great basketball program, even before people realized it was a great basketball program. It was because Scott Drew is an excellent developmental coach, still one of the best in college basketball. And it's because he had guys coming back. Could you imagine if Adam Flagler played here 1 year and then went and played at San Jose State? Would he have become an All-American? Probably not. Just going out on a limb there. Like if Maceo Teague went from UNCW, played 1 year at Baylor, and then played at Florida. He's not winning a national championship. Donovan Mitchell. Davion, I think is his name. Yikes. Davion Mitchell, same thing though. Like he's not getting a shot at Auburn, right? And so he makes that leap to Baylor as a transfer back when that meant something, when that was a real risk. And did it pay off? I'd say so. Basically 3 years on Baylor's campus. He goes from and also ran at Auburn before they had really kind of struck gold again with Bruce Pearl. And then he was in the final. They were in the Final Four the year that he was practicing at Baylor. But so they hadn't really become that great program that they are now. And then he goes to Baylor, and 3 years later, he's a lottery pick, top 10. So all that to say, I wish college basketball would get better with the transfer portal, but obviously that's not going to happen. And Scott Drew just can't help himself. He just keeps bringing in good talent here. He just keeps bringing in guys who become NBA players. I would say NBA players is what he's bringing in, but it's really him making them into NBA players. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Thank you so much for making it your first listen today and every day. Help me out by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and then help me out doubly by joining tomorrow on the next episode of your favorite show, Locked on Baylor.